Are you thinking of traveling to the UK in 2021? Maybe you filled out your standard visitor visa application, but you just don't know what to do about that cover letter. Well, you're in luck today, because in this video, I'm going to share with you how I wrote my cover letter for my standard visitor visa application. What is up YouTube? Dr. Wajih here, and welcome to my channel, where I help you achieve your dream of becoming a successful doctor in Pakistan or the UK. And I teach anatomy on the side. So if you haven't already, do subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon to stay notified of the latest videos. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I wrote my cover letter in my standard visitor visa application when I went to the UK to take my PLAB 2 exam. Full disclosure, the weather over here has been kind of crazy, so it's really windy and really rainy, so you might hear some noise in the background. Second disclaimer, I am not a lawyer or an immigration expert. I don't speak on behalf of the office or any other agency. I'm just some guy that went through the process. The format that I used for my cover letter I got by doing some extensive research online on various different blogs and from my seniors, without whom this wouldn't have been possible. Keeping that in mind, let's begin the show. I will keep on looking at my laptop from time to time as I read to you my letter. You should be able to see it up in the screen on the side here. If you need any sort of help filling out the online form for your standard visitor visa application, I've made a video on that as well. Check that out in the top right hand section here. Now, without further ado, let's begin the show. So the format that I used in my cover letter was to A, give an overview of the whole situation, B, to explain your living and family circumstances, C, to describe your travel itinerary, D, to give them your plan for the accommodation during your trip, E, explain the reason for attending a PLAB 2 preparatory course if that is something that you'll be doing, F, financial sponsorship, and G, your previous travel history. So now I'm going to be going into the detail of all of these sections. Let's begin with the overview. You should mention who you are, what are your credentials, what do you do, which visa are you applying for, and the main reason why you're applying for this visa. So if I read out to you a little extract from my cover letter, I'd said that my name is Wajih Hassan, my passport number is XYZ, I'm applying for a UK standard visitor visa to take the PLAB 2 exam, which I'd scheduled on so-and-so date. The exam would be held at 3 Hardman Square, Manchester, UK. So basically in one line, I pretty much describe the main purpose of writing this cover letter. Next, I'll talk about my credentials. So I mentioned that I completed my MBBS from so-and-so university and had myself subsequently registered with the PMC. My PMC license number was so-and-so. Next up, I talked about my other credentials, like I passed the IELTS exam on this date with a score of 8.0. I have passed the PLAB 1 exam on this date. Currently, I'm working as a resident medical officer in the medical intensive care unit at so-and-so hospital, which is a salaried non-training position. As the PLAB 2 exam is only held in Manchester, UK, I need to apply for a standard visitor visa to take the exam. I further went on to just mention briefly that I had previously applied for the exam. I'd even gotten a visa, but I wasn't able to travel because GMC canceled their exams in 2020. And as soon as they announced dates in 2021, I registered on the mentioned date. So that's it for your overview. Next up, you've got your living situation. So over here, very briefly, you have to mention where you live, who owns the house that you live in, and what is your family unit. So I basically mentioned that I am a resident in Karachi, Pakistan. I lived with a family of 4, which included myself, my dad, my mom, and my brother. I mentioned a brief introduction about them and what they do. So for example, with my dad, I mentioned that he has his own clinic and he's the consultant doctor over there. He bears all the expenses for my family. So I ended this section by mentioning that I'd attached my family registration certificate and that the house was in my mother's name. Easy. The next part would be your itinerary for the UK trip. So this bit needs to be extremely precise and to the point, and should contain all the important dates. So the way I did it was I wrote down the dates first, and in front of them I wrote what I'd be doing during them. For example, I mentioned on this date I'll be flying to Manchester. On this date I'd be completing my designated quarantine. From this date I would move into my accommodation. From this date till this date I'll be attending a PLAB 2 preparatory course or academy, whatever you want to call it. And during the remaining period, I'll be practicing with candidates at the academy and on the mannequins for the exam. And then I mentioned my return date. Do mention the date you're going to be returning home, because it's very important that you highlight that you will be coming back after you've completed the main purpose of your visit. Next up was the plan for your accommodation. So with me, I quarantined with a family friend for 2 weeks, and then I moved into my Airbnb. So as you can see here, I basically highlighted that for the initial 2 weeks, I'd be staying with a family friend. Then I'd move into the Airbnb. Airbnb was hosted by this person. I'd be staying there from this date till that date. Next up, I went on to mention that I would be attending an academy from this date till that date. I mentioned the address of the academy, the company number of the academy, and the most important bit, I wrote at the end that attending the academy was not the main purpose of my visit. It would just be a recreational course that I would attend for 2 weeks, and it would just serve as an aid to my exam. I also went on to mention that attending this academy wouldn't lead to any qualification, it wouldn't be counted as a formal study, and that it wasn't affiliated with NICE or GMC or the NHS. So it's very important that you highlight that attending the academy is not the main purpose of your visit. The main purpose of your visit is to take the PLAB 2 exam. Next up, I mentioned why I was attending the academy. So over here, I mentioned that the PLAB 2 exam tests a level of competency that FY1 doctors should be at after they complete their training. It involves simulators and mannequins and things that aren't readily available back home. Since the academy is able to simulate the PLAB 2 exam closely, it would help improve my clinical skills according to the UK best practice, which is why I wanted to attend the course. Now, if you're not attending an academy, then you can just leave this part altogether. It's not important. Next up, we had the make or break of your application, which will be your financial sponsorship details. In this section, I went on to say that at this early stage in my career, I couldn't bear the expenses of the trip individually, and hence my dad would finance the trip fully, which included expenses like travel, accommodation, food, living, etc. One mistake that I've sometimes noticed people say is that they end up using some vocabulary which might not be the best idea. So if you, let's say, don't have any individual savings yourself, you don't really need to say that I have spent all of my savings and I cannot afford to go. Vocabulary like this might land you in some trouble, and it's better to use words like, at this point in my career, I can't bear the expenses individually. Henceforth, my financial sponsor will be paying towards my trip. So it makes it sound formal, and it doesn't make it sound like, you know, you're in some sort of financial instability, which is an absolute red flag for your application. I went on to mention the payments that I'd already made and the payments that I anticipated. If you want to know how much you're looking to spend during your PLAB 2 trip, then do check out my video on my PLAB 2 expenses. I have detailed every single expense that I had, and it'll give you a very good idea of what you can expect when you come to the UK. Further, I mentioned the bank account details of my joint account with my father and my own bank account and what have you. I finally went on to total up the money that I had available for myself and the total expenses that I was looking at, and then I mentioned that these expenses were only a fraction of what I had available to me, and therefore I could afford the trip. And finally, we move on to previous travel history. So I traveled to various countries before. I basically just laid out the dates and mentioned where I traveled, and I also added this little line saying that I'd always returned back on time, I'd obeyed all the laws of the countries I'd gone to. So you should consider adding that as well if you've traveled outside of your home country. If you haven't traveled at all before, that's also not a big issue. Don't worry about it. As long as you have a genuine invitation from the GMC and you have the finances, you have a genuine application to go to the UK, then you should be good. And finally, I summarized my application by saying that I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm looking forward to becoming a compassionate doctor and improving my further education by taking the PLAB 2 exam. I have a genuine invitation from the GMC, and I'm seeking a genuine entry into the UK. I would be very grateful if you could grant me entry clearance into the country. And at the very end, I wrote down a list of documents that I had attached with my application. There you have it, folks. That's basically it for my cover letter. So I hope this video was helpful. It helped clear any doubts you might have about writing a cover letter. As you can see, it's really not that hard. It's kind of straightforward, but for most of us, this is going to be the first time we're traveling to the UK and we really want to get it right the first time. And I totally get that. I've been in your shoes. This is what worked for me. I really hope that it works for you, but obviously I can't guarantee anything. There's a lot that goes into a successful visa application. And I am trying to share my experience as best as I can to help you guys out. Hopefully it was useful. If you liked this video, let me know in the comments below if it was helpful, if you have any other questions that you want to ask. And if you guys want me to do a video on what are the documents that you're supposed to submit for your standard visitor visa application, then let me know. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.